Welcome to this video related to our striking games unit, and specifically to help us with analysis and evaluation video, which will be part of our first assessment task and the D3 criteria. I've put together a series of short video clips which will help emphasise either some skill aspect and technique or a conceptual or strategic element of a striking game. And hopefully by going through these, you as students will be able to have a look at videos in the future and be able to look at things that are happening and identify the various elements a little bit more easily. So with any luck, I'll be able to play through this video. This video will be available for you guys, both with the voiceover from me and without it. So we're going to start off with batting. I'm going to specifically focus on, obviously, the lady at bat and her positioning. So with all of the striking games type games, the batters will need a pretty solid position prior to contact. We talk about having hands high and the bat being retracted. We like having a balanced position, obviously knees bent, hips slightly bent. And this balanced position allows people to drive their weight forward through the shot. So we often also call it sort of a power position because it helps the batter generate power. We can see this if we go through this quite slowly. As the pitch comes through, her eyes are firmly on the ball so that she can make any late adjustment. And even prior to making contact to the ball, even seeing the pitch, she's getting herself ready to step forward and drive her lower body, specifically her hips. There you go, see those hips drive around, and they're going to help her take, I guess, the weight of the ground, the mass of the ground up through the legs into the torso and help transfer that to the bat so she can generate a whole heap of momentum to transfer to the ball when she makes contact. So this position here is fantastic, and you can still see her eyes firmly on the ball. And one thing we love about batting is this extended position through the arms. Both arms are extended, the wrists are extended. She hasn't necessarily caught the ball in the meat of the bat, but she's caught it well enough. So it's a really good example of good batting technique and the sort of thing that can have an impact on, I guess, hitting performance. Now, in contrast, we're going to have a look a little bit around us and a couple of people who may not be able to demonstrate some of that technical ability quite so well. So I'll have a look at this lady in the red. Absolutely a very high ball, but if we have a look at her stance prior to striking the ball, she's definitely not in a balanced power position. She's not got the bat retracted. Because she doesn't have the bat retracted, the first thing she's got to do is take it back, which means she's actually got less time to judge the pitch, its speed, its height, and obviously then to coordinate her body to respond to that and swing and make contact. No ball! So again, she does actually get the bat retracted, but you can see that the ball is almost halfway to her when that happens. So she's ended up being a bit rushed. She has in this example got her feet slightly open, which would allow her to be slightly more balanced. In the next example, we've got something quite similar. She's made contact, which is fantastic. But again, if we look at the position, feet are close together, not side on, knees aren't bent, hips aren't bent, we definitely wouldn't call this a power position. Bat is not retracted. The eyes do look to be on the ball, which is good, but there's a lot of adjustment to be made when the ball comes. Too much adjustment to really make good contact. Okay, now we contrast this, the last two girls, with this gentleman here. Straight away, his feet are in a side-on position, bat's retracted, clearly got his eyes on the ball. And you can see that he stepped towards his target, his hips have rotated, eyes still on the ball, which is excellent, and he's followed through towards his target. Some key batting aspects done quite well. Some fielding and throwing skills.
And this is right in front of Lions. Take a look.
So we're actually going to focus on this lady here, this girl here. We're going to look at her positioning prior to the ball coming as a fielding point of view. From a fielding point of view, really nice low body position, both legs are bent. Her body is directly behind the line of the ball. And to be fair, the ball came pretty much straight at her, but she did have to move a little bit, and she moved quickly, got low, obviously watched the ball straight into her glove. And we can see that from a different angle in just a second.
Running right in front, she's right here. That is an easy out. I love the fact that she's like, you're not getting that bag.
So there's that great position, bent, legs apart, balanced, heads directly over the hands. But what I really like also is this next bit where she gets herself ready, side on, to throw to her target.
Oh, and the freshman.
And the eyes, straight on the target there. No doubt the third baseman's eyes are looking directly at her as well. So she's getting herself in a side-on position, and then she rotates those hips forward, follow throughs to her target, head still looking at her target. Bang.
You can still hit the runner, you can throw this ball away. Lions sees her.
This is another example of move, especially from a fielding point of view. Another example of what do we do as the ball is coming towards us. So this preparation as we're fielding. So the centre fielder was over here. So she's moved herself very early to get into a position behind the line of the ball. So if the ball was travelling in this line, follow my mouse through here, she's had to get in so that she's behind the line that the ball was travelling. She's obviously got her eyes on the ball. She's getting herself again into a balanced position, and she's been able to slow her movement backwards, because she was moving backwards a little bit to judge the ball, to then obviously balance up, move forward a step to take it in front of her chest, which is an ideal place to take any sort of outfield catch, really. Okay, so let's have a look at this left fielder here, starting, well, it looks like a good 15 metres or so back from the fence. She makes really good ground early. So again, she's looking at the line the ball's travelling.
Green, high, fly ball.
Makes that good ground, but again, tries to stay balanced on her feet, eyes on the ball. And even though she jumped in a very balanced position, so she was able to take the ball pretty cleanly and be aware of her positioning in relationship to the fence. The next section of video we're looking at is hitting the bad ball, and this starts off us looking at concepts and strategies applied during the course of striking games. Most big strategies in all sports relate to the manipulation of time and space. So here we're going to try and explore those two specific concepts and then sort of bring them down into some smaller specific strategies, if you like, that people would adopt in these games. From a batting point of view, the first one is this idea that we need to make sure that we hit the bad balls. So we're going to have to judge the movement of a ball coming from the pitcher or bowler to us, and we're going to judge whether it's in a good hitting position or a bad hitting position. If we judge it to be in a bad hitting position, we need to treat the ball as if it's dangerous, because we are trying to protect our plate or our wicket, and we need to play it potentially defensively or very, very carefully. So if it's a good ball or a good pitch, we might have to play a little bit more defensive. If it's a slightly badder ball, one that's easier for us to hit, then that might be the ideal time for us to swing and swing hard. If it's a very bad ball, it might be something that we should be leaving completely alone, because potentially it's a wide in cricket, or it's a ball in softball or baseball. And it's important to leave those balls, because a lot of times they're the sort of balls that might tempt us to do something that we shouldn't do as a batter, and that might end up with us making mistakes. So we'll have a look at a few of these situations here. So we're going to look at a series of 4 balls, or 4 pitches. That's what we call a very good ball. Okay, so it caught the edge of the inside edge of the plate, and it was going at a rate of knots, and very difficult for the batter to make good contact with that. She watched it. Watching the first pitch is not a bad thing in softball, to get a feel for the pitcher, how fast she's pitching, what her action's like, the feel for the diamond, etc. But it was a very good ball. So we need to treat that with caution. She's let that one go through for a strike.
Such a good pitch. To be able to find that one spot inside, you got to understand these Oklahoma hitters have been sitting in, prepared to hit in, but Garcia,
so the batter's seen the first one,
still makes them jump, says get off my plate, allows them to back off just a bit to set up what she's going to throw next.
Now, to me, she looks like she's already made a conscious attempt that she's going to swing at the second ball. However, it was high and inside. So I think from a hitting the bad ball point of view, I think it was a ball she should have left, but I think that was a predetermined swing and not something that was judged all that well. Foul ball also puts her at strike 2.
Challenges her again. More rise on the first pitch, more screwball on that last one. Oh, 2 from Garcia.
So that one was well away from the plate. So that was a good one for her to decide not to swing at whatsoever. So in those 3 pitches, she's got a very good pitch. She got one upwards and inside, a bit close to her body, which she swung at, as I said, which I think was premeditated. I think that was a ball that she should have left. And then obviously she got the ball down here, which she did leave. So in terms of hitting the bad ball, she's probably gone for one that she shouldn't have swung at. But otherwise, she's doing well.
Put it away.
Okay. And we have a look at this ball here, and it's almost dead middle over the plate. So with regards to, is this in a good hitting position? Yes, it absolutely is. Any bat will swing through over the middle of the plate pretty comfortably. She didn't have to adjust a great deal. So is this a bad ball? No, it's not a bad ball, but it's in a very good hitting position. Clearly for this batter, she feels comfortable with it and gave it a reasonably good swing. She ended up getting caught right on the fence line, but in terms of reading the play and trying to hit the bad ball, she's done a pretty good job there of those 4 pitches.
Gray screen, high fly ball, good and back on the track.
Unlucky. Now, we're actually going to focus on this lady here. So this is the example of kickball. Now, we think about what it is we should be doing here. We're trying to hit the bad ball, or kick, in this case, the bad ball. So this was her first pitch. I'll go back just a touch. There she is. There she is. So she's ready. She's actually receiving the first pitch. And this is what she does. No thanks. Decided to let that one go. Not a very good ball. Wasn't going to be tempted by it. You know what? Don't like the second ball either. Not tempted by that one. So this lady's made a deliberate, she's applied a deliberate strategy to leave a bad ball, which is fantastic. Okay, because what we're trying to do is hit the good ball, hit the one that's going to help us, hit or kick where we want to go. And there she goes. She gets to land one just inside the diamond and gets to run herself over to first base. All right, so let's see how this guy goes. Is he going to hit the bad ball or not? Okay, so that ball was sort of aiming at his body. He was not really in a great batting position. Yeah, his batting position, technique-wise, is not so good. And then he's having a swing at a ball that's well above his head. So this guy's just hit 3 in a row, or at least had a swing at 3 in a row. One of them was definitely at his body. One of them was over his head. The other one looked like it was pretty fair dead middle. But again, with this concept, we look at the pitch. We don't just swing at every pitch that comes our way. We try and make sure that we swing at the pitches that are going to allow us to hit where we want to hit, how we want to hit it. Okay, so now we're exploring the idea of space with our hits. So when our field is spread out, there's going to be areas where they are not covering the field, so that they are obviously spaces that we want to hit to. The more we can hit to space, the harder it is for the fielders to get to it. That gives us more time to advance to, whether it be first base, second base, third base, etc. We obviously have to take our medicine a little bit. Sometimes it's hard for us to hit where we want to hit. Sometimes, as I said, if we get the right ball, it's easier for us to do that, but it's something we need to try and do all the time to allow us to keep an advantage over the fielding team and get to those bases. We could obviously make a decision about whether we want to stay safe and hit the ball low, or obviously go high and hit over the top. And that's something that you'll see both in this little section of video and later on.
Teammate, high school from Angels Tyson.
So before we get going, batter here needs to run to first base in this direction over to the screen left. So the space which is furthest away from where she's running over to first base is going to be on this side. Okay, somewhere in between second and third base, and preferably out in the outfield. And that is about perfect if you want to get yourself
there's your game winner. There's your slow home run with 2
over
outs
first
in the
base.
top of the 7th.
Now, this batter is under a slightly different, she's got a slightly different problem. She's trying to get herself to first base, but she's got a runner on second who's trying to get herself to third base. So if this batter hits in this direction, it's going to put the second baseman running in danger. And if she hits in this direction, it's going to put herself in danger. So she doesn't have, there's no great benefit really to hitting one side or the other, apart from the fact that if she can hit to the left-hand side here and our second baseman can get to third, and she can potentially sacrifice herself, the runner getting to third is obviously in a better position to score a home run, and that would normally be what we were looking for here.
Sullivan to Lyons, she'll go to...
Doesn't happen, she gets out. So when we do think about hitting the space, we don't just think about ourselves as a batter, we need to think about our base runners.
The tag applied by Romero, and they cut down Peck. 2 outs as Peck runs on a roller to the left side. And this is right in...
Okay, so again, this looked to be premeditated, this run from this lady here, but still, as you can see, she's running to this base here, past 2 fielders. Potentially this would have been a ball to miss for this batter, let it go, take the strike, and maybe try and hit out towards this direction here so that the runner has a chance to get to third.
Of Lyons, take a look. She's running right in front. She's right here. That is an easy out. I love the fact that she's like, you're not getting that bag. Well, and the freshman, I mean, there's still a lot of things that can go wrong. You can still hit the runner. You can throw this ball away. Lyons sees her, makes a perfect throw and get...
Okay, so again, we see this example of running to the right because that's where the first base is, and hitting left because that's where not only there is space, but for a fielder to get the ball and then get it over to first base gives the batter time in which to get to a safe place. Okay, hitting left to run right. In the next section, we're having a look at the concept of deception to create space. So attempting to hide what it is we're doing by setting up to do something different. A really good example of this is in our... To give some context, it's in our first video clip. We're going to watch this batter twice. So the first time we watch her in the 5th innings, and the second time we watch her in the 7th innings. So this is what she did in the 5th innings. Bang. Nailed it. And obviously she knew straight away that she did it hard enough for a home run. And we'll play the rest of it out. But then we're going to watch her in the 7th innings. Okay?
Back in the 5th, she did this. Her 2nd home run of the series. I would throw every single pitch off.
Okay, so now we're talking about her coming into 7th innings. And you can hear the commentators talk about not only did she hit a home run, but she's also hit another ball into the outfield, maybe 2 other balls into the outfield for, I think, a run to second base and a run to first base at least. So she's been hitting balls and trying to hit them a long way. So this is her in the 7th innings. And then she pulled out a little bunt So she put her bat just in front of her, as if she might even bunt. So creating a little bit of confusion in fielders' minds whether she's going to go short or whether she's going to go long, like she did in style.
But she's had a double and single to add to that.
So in doing things different as a batter, sometimes in swinging hard, sometimes in bunting or swinging soft, we can create spaces, because what we do when we set up an expected behaviour such as hitting as far as we can, we move fielders away from certain spaces. We push them out into the outfield. Then that gives us room in the infield for us to bunt. If we bunt, and we do that a couple of times, there's a likelihood that the fielders will respond and anticipate that behaviour and be drawn slightly more close to the batter, leaving potentially a little bit of space over the top of the outfielders' heads, or even over the top of the infielders' heads, to try and land a fair hit. This we call deception. Behaviour such as hitting as far as we can, we move fielders away from certain spaces. We push them out into the outfield. Then that gives us room in the infield for us to bunt. If we bunt, and we do that a couple of times, there's a likelihood that the fielders will respond and anticipate that behaviour and be drawn slightly more close to the batter, leaving potentially a little bit of space over the top of the outfielders' heads, or even over the top of the infielders' heads, to try and land a fair hit. This we call deception. The next little bit is about supporting the hitter. So we've obviously got and we've referred to this a bit already, we've got a batter who is trying to swing or kick from the home plate. And if we've got anyone who has batted previously and they've hit fairly, they may well be in a position more advanced. So they're on first base or second base or third base. And these people are trying to support the hitter as much as they're also trying to get around and score. They're trying to get out of the hitter's way. One of the most important things to understand in striking games is you can only have one person on the base. So if you're standing on first base when the batter is about to hit, it's a lot easier for the batter if the first baseman can move to second base or even move around to third base, following what's allowed according to the rules. But that allows the hitter, the batter, the kicker, gives them a little bit more breathing room when they bat. So we'll have a look at an example.
Makes a perfect throw and gets the out. Sullivan will be able to get over to second.
Okay, so we're going to break this one down, and you can see it again from above.
Wild pitch. Charge to Juarez. So now Sullivan is the championship winner.
So even before she releases here, you can see that she's supporting the batter by looking to see if she can get to second base. According to the rules of softball, she's not allowed to leave the plate before the ball leaves the pitcher's hand. And I think she's done a great job of timing that. But the ball's out of her hand and she just leaves the plate. So if anything happens, the catcher fumbles or the ball goes through for a strike, she may be able to sneak over to second base. And if she sneaks over to second base, that's going to make it easier for the batter to get to first base on her next hit. Without going into the details about that, if the second baseman or the first baseman gets to second, this second baseman needs to be dealt with differently to get them out, which is a little bit more challenging. So it benefits the second baseman by being here, and it benefits the first baseman by being by having a free base in which to run to. There it goes. She was already 4 or 5 steps in advance towards the second plate, and there she goes, nice and easy. Now the batter has got a free plate to run towards. and she doesn't have to think about whether there's a baseman there that is going to run to second base at the same time. So she's not worried about that. The last bit here, I think, is defending spaces and creating indecision in batting. And what you're about to see is probably some of the greatest bowling and greatest cricket examples that there is. So we'll see what it gives us.
Exactly right.
The gentleman here is showing Warren, one of widely regarded as one of the best leg spin bowlers of all time in cricket. So let's just call him the pitcher or the bowler.
Warren and McMillan have had some terrific little battles over the years. The reason they enjoy the battles is because they like the opportunity to take each other on.
What I want you to observe here is this is 6 balls I think it might actually be 5 that we're going to watch. And we're going to watch what happens over the 5 balls. And again, we're looking at how the fielding team and the bowler puts pressure on the batter to create indecision in the batter, purely by where they bowl and by the fielding placements that are around them. So let's just see what happens.
Deep mid wicket is back there. We've got the man on the 45-degree angle because McMillan does like to play the dinky sweep shots. I've got a feeling it's going to be around the wicket, into the foot marks, and just sit.
Okay, so this is our bowler. So wicketkeeper, it's our fielder here and a fielder here. So we've got 2 close-in fielders. This is the batter, and this is the wicketkeeper. So actually 3 close-in fielders.
Reaction from Craig McMillan, whether he is going to do the double-footed block the stump lead, as Marshall has tried, or will he hit from those zones? McMillan opening up his stance. He's tried to sort of stance before to off-spinners bowling over the wicket. This actually doesn't make... it makes a lot of sense to open up the stance this much because of the position in which Warner's letting the ball go.
Yeah, it's 5 and 6, boys. Come on.
You saw that just flash up on the screen there. It's not supposed to be there, but it's actually a really good time for us to pop that in as a concept. The idea of getting a batter out versus trying to save runs. This is a really good example of how the bowler is trying to get the batter out. He's not trying to save runs. He's deliberately trying to put indecision in the mind of the batter in order for the batter to hopefully make a mistake.
Oh, yes.
First one he leaves, the second one he plays. That's why Warren's getting excited here. So he said, get him out. I want the 45 out. I want him in on the offside. If he's going to probe and push at me out of those links there, I just need something unusual to happen from the detritus. The rubble.
So he brings in another fielder here. He changes the position of this fielder here. So now brought in 2 closer in fielders on top of the 3 that were there before.
The loose stuff on the pitch. So there was an opportunity for McMillan there as a full toss was padded away for him to put it through mid-wicket. Again, so he's in a frame of mind, McMillan, and it's a bit of amusement for Gilchrist and the fielders around the wicket. He's in a frame of mind where he just wants to pad away, and if he's missing out really on scoring. He's had 2 in a row, flush on the...
And again, you listen to the commentary, and the commentators, I think, have got pretty close to the mark. The batter doesn't know what to do. And that's because of the way the bowler is bowling, so the place in which he's putting the ball, and the fielding positions that are around him. And the batter also knows that this guy's a very good bowler, so he's already in a slightly defensive frame of mind. But the bowler's creating extra indecision, and the fielding team have got fielders in position that he's adding to that.
It's got to hurt after a while. You have to have a steel cap front foot.
And there it is. And that's the mistake that they were looking for. So 4 really careful balls, a couple that at the start of the over were just sort of feeling out the batter, and then a couple where they moved the field, changed the field, and then produced obviously the ultimate mistake, getting the batter out caught.
An unusual dismissal. That is odd. They played that from so wide in such a defensive fashion.
The last concept we're going to talk about is defending spaces. So as a fielding team, strategically, you need to be aware of where it is you can position yourself so that you can best defend the spaces that you need to defend. Normally, that seems relatively obvious, but it's not so. So some people will comfortably believe that they're defending space very thoughtfully until they turn around and see that there's a great big space to their right or left. This is a great example in our rounders game. We've got a gentleman here who's on a third base, and there's a fourth base down here. We've got an outfielder here and a bowler here. Yeah, but we've got nobody fielding in this area whatsoever. So in terms of fielding strategies, a basic starting strategy would be to make sure that fielders are spreading out relatively evenly around the hitting area to try and reduce the amount of time it takes to get to a ball that's hit somewhere in that hitting area. Now you can see that things have changed. We've got a new bowler, so the guy that was on third base here is now bowling. And for whatever reason, we've also got 2 more fielders out this side. And straight away you can just see that the space that the fielding team is occupying, keeping in mind that there's also a 4th baseman just in here, that looks a lot harder to hit into than the previous image that we showed up. Of that one there, that looks like there's a whole heap of space that there's going to be no problem hitting into. There's one other thing that's very noticeable actually, is that this gentleman, and to a degree this gentleman, are also ready to field. So part of defending spaces is being ready to move. Again, being in a balanced position, watching what's going on, can obviously make a big difference in the time it takes for you to get to the ball that comes in your direction. Okay, what I want to point out, we've had a look at this girl here before when we were looking at hitting the bad ball and making sure that you judge that correctly. But I want to focus on this lady here this time. This is the catcher, and what she's doing is trying to defend a space. Obviously her job as a catcher is to retrieve the ball that comes behind the batting plate. It's a little bit different in kickball, I know, but she's actually looking to defend this space just in front of the plate, just in case the lady here just knocks it in short. So she's defending space by being ready to move into that space, even though that she obviously has a different job to do. So I'll go back a little bit. So focusing on defending spaces, our catchers can defend spaces in and around the plate, but obviously our fielders can defend spaces in and around their base if they're on base, or obviously in the outfield. So we have a look at not this lady, but the next one. She's done a great job, clean as mustard. We're actually going to focus on this lady here, was just out of... Oh, I missed her again. This lady just out of play. So she's actually defending the third base, but she's covering this space in here. And you look what happens after the kick. Moving straight in towards that space. So she's defending that space really well by being ready, being on her toes, watching the ball nice and carefully and closely, and being ready to move forward especially. Now we go to a cricket example, and this must be, as a batter, pretty horrific. But we talk about fielding space. We can change space when we field by moving closer to or further away from batters. And this is obviously an example of fielders moving in towards the batter. So in terms of narrowing down and making the fielding space so much smaller, putting a lot of pressure on the batsman to defend without making mistakes. That looks horrific to me. You would think, however, that obviously if there's that many people inside a small space near the batter, there's lots of other spaces everywhere else, and you'd be right in thinking that. But the strategy here is trying to create indecision in the batter, trying to defend spaces differently to do that, and to try and get a wicket or get someone out rather than try to save runs. And you can see how that would play out in this situation. I think from now that's probably enough examples of the different concepts that you might see in striking games and some of the different skills that you'll see in striking games. Hope that helps you with looking at video in the future and trying to analyse it and evaluate what it is you're seeing.